Welcome, space fans. I'm Mark Marquette. So glad that you've joined us this afternoon to stay curious. I'm broadcasting on YouTube from the American Space Museum, where for over 20 years we've been preserving the birth of the American space age right here at its delivery room in Brevard County. And helping me today on our Streamlabs production facility is Marty Winkle. And Marty, we just heard another noisy rocket take off just 10 miles from us across the Indian River. And I believe that's the first Starlink launch of the year by Mr. Musk. He had a first launch of the year the other night. Um, kind of getting routine. How are you, my friend? Say hello on that UCX family microphone.
I'm doing good, Mark. Thank you. Hope you're the same.
I'm doing the same. I've been very busy today. Been in almost 3 hours of meetings and am reprising a January 6th program that we did. We've done over the years, Marty. This is our fourth January 6th to be broadcasting, and we'll be coming up on our fifth anniversary of Stay Curious in March. That's very hard to believe. Thank you all for watching, like Dave Stange from in the beginning of time here with us. And we're going to try this year to make it more of your show and some more informal conversations, like we had with Mitch Rothman of Manned Space last week. Marty, that was a very good conversation we had with Mitch there. So. I'm busy with new duties as director of the Space Museum, and that just means we're going to try to enhance our Stay Curious broadcast by bringing you more guest hosts and more guests, which makes it easy on me most of the time. Give us good luck. Keep your fingers crossed. I've got a couple shows in mind. We're going to look at the year a little bit late to look at the 2024, but I think we need to one day this week and get our usual group of contributors in the queue, like Terry White and Steve Agid, and of course Nick Thomas, and get Chachi in here again, Mike Chinelli, and I'm leaving out Mikey Haddad, another regular that has been on this show.
Steve Agate.
Steve Agate. We're going to call Steve Agate up and get him on the show here. So thank you all as we roll into the first full week of the new year. And I do not have my smart tablet with me. It's in my car. So Marty will write down who's watching today. Is my daughter on there yet?
Not yet.
All right. Just want to say hi to everybody watching. I'll bet Connie McDaniel's watching and Sharon Rodriguez. Hello to you, Sharon. Both of them are also volunteers at the U.S. Space Force Museum out there. Well, let's look at a couple things here, but first we want to thank the Ramanujans for another donation to the American Space Museum to support Shuttle Fest. GoHistoryTravel.org is their website. You'll see some very eclectic looking posts there. Eclectic in a way that Rama, his wife Mal, and their son Bharat go around the world and go to astronaut homes and birthplaces and all kinds of things, and as well as some notable people of history. So support GoHistoryTravel.org. Well, Marty, I've got you speaking a little bit like a astronomer. So if I say today the moon is 7 days old, what does that mean to you, my friend?
It means it's a quarter of a moon.
And you're going to see it in the evening sky. And it is first quarter moon is right. And if you've been watching over the weekend, the moon has done a moon dance from Venus to Saturn the last few nights. Venus, the first star to the right of the moon tonight will be Saturn. And then, of course, you can't miss brilliant Venus. And a week from tonight, the moon will be 14 days old. And that means full moon, full phase. The full moon of the month of January is often called the wolf moon by Native Americans, Marty. And would you have an idea why it would be called the wolf moon? So I have a sip of much needed coffee here.
I know you mentioned it several times over the last few years. I think it's when the
Well, you'd think because you see a lot of wolves, for example, but that's not it. It's you hear the wolves baying in the night because they're hungry. They're starving. They can't find the food that they want to find. And the little rabbits and stuff don't get out on the snow and run around because they know they're fair game there. So, and there's no bush, so they hide in the bushes. So the baying of the wolves is why we have the wolf moon, or the full moon of January, called that. And I was looking at my app here. Oh, I got my phone. I can pull up YouTube on that. That's a good app to have, folks. Phases of the Moon. This is my Android phone. I know some of you, like Connie McDaniel, like your Apple products there. They probably have an equivalent to this. This tells me that the moon is 363,000 kilometers away. That's about 250,000 miles at that. And it's in Aries, the constellation Aries there. So let me try to go to that, my YouTube there. So also, this is a little chart to show you that right now, a lot of you are hearing in the news, oh, all the planets are visible in the sky. Go outside and they're just going to knock you over the head like Christmas ornaments. Not, all right. Jupiter and Saturn will knock, Venus and Jupiter are so bright that they'll knock you in the head right away and you'll know where they're at. But the planets are visible in the sky. There I am live. Okay. I got me on here, Marty. And I see that, so this is basically until about 2 hours after sunset when Venus sets, you're going to have Venus, Saturn, and then in the east is going to be Jupiter and Mars. And there's a lot of other bright stars of the constellations of the winter up there. Jupiter is next to the red star Aldebaran and Taurus the Bull. You'll notice that. And Mars will have two stars above it. Those are Castor and Pollux, the stars of Gemini the twins. So download an app and figure that out yourselves there. So yeah, I see that Cliff Watson has woke up early there in Australia, where they're having summertime. Hey mate, good to see you. I've got your mug in the dishwasher, I think there. I've got he sent us a beautiful arse mug up there, and yours is up there, Marty. Yeah.
Mine's on display.
This is on display. Thank you, Cliff, for supporting us. Dave Stange says, happy Monday to my Stay Curious friends. Very cold and snowy in Michigan today. And Bill Whiting has escaped Michigan there. Why don't you, Dave Stange? I know you can't talk Julia and the grandkids to come down here full time, but we're glad to have Bill Whiting back here. Bill, I'm going to get you on the show here to talk about space geek stuff here, hopefully the next day or two. Hello from Central Florida from Mitch Rothman. Mitch was on Friday with his lovely wife, Paula. And then we enjoyed an excellent meal at Zarella's, and John Zarella himself was holding court there. Dean Babcock, just digging out from a winter storm in central Illinois. And good afternoon from snowy Pennsylvania, says Tommy Usiak. So that is news that we are glad to avoid here down in sunny Florida. A good Florida day today. Warm, sunny, windy a little bit. Kind of surprised they launched that Falcon 9, Marty. In the wind, it seemed rather windy. But, oops, I'm going to let y'all see my bald spot while I bend down there. And we're looking at the planets there. There we go.
You missed it.
They missed my bald spot? Oh, there they are. There it is right there. Okay. All right. I'm having trouble on a Monday holding myself together here, but let's get rolling here with the meat of the show. And that is our museum. Of course, I'm going to focus on it a little bit more than I have this past year, showing you some artifacts. At the end of the show, I'm going to show you some more artifacts on a mini tour of our museum. But this is on top of the Apollo console. Those are some legacy concepts handed down to us of what the shuttle was going to look like. Or this in front of you is a concept by Rockwell that whole thing was going to be brought back to Earth and launched and then relaunched. And you got some piggyback shuttle and the type of concepts where both vehicles would return, one sort of being the ferry up to suborbit and then land. But always interesting is that lawn chair. That's the lawn chair, so to speak, that Norm Thagard rode back on STS-71 when he came back from the Mir space station. STS-71 brought back 8 human beings, launched with 6, brought back Thagard and a Russian, and they had to sit in these makeshift plastic lawn chairs there. So that's a cool artifact. A lot of one-of-a-kind artifacts here at our museum. Birthdays. Birthday boy that we love and have heard talk many, many times. Guy Gardner is 74 years old. 4 astronaut birthdays today. Guy Gardner, 74. And maybe I'm just going to do it this way. There's another picture of Guy with Nick Thomas out at the Space Center doing what he loves to do. There is, that's Mike Foale, who is also in the Mir space station, is 60. How old is he today? He's 67 today. Gardner is 76. No, Gardner's 77. Yeah, let me add. Yeah, Gardner was born in 58. He's 77. Philip Perrin, his birthday today makes him. Oh gosh, I don't have a Perrin's bio there. That's a faux pas of mine. All right.
While you're looking, Mark, if Gardner was born in, you said 67?
Yeah, I got the
He's
ages
67
wrong here.
then.
Who? What?
He would be 67.
Who?
Gardner. You said he was born in 67?
No, he is 67. He is 77, I think, there. Let me correct myself. Let's back up here to, you all will imbibe me here. I put this on our Facebook page, so let me, and grab the wrong sheet of their birthdays, and I knew I should have done it this way, but I didn't. So there. Okay, let's get my glasses on. Here we go. That is David St. James of the St. Jacques, Canadian Space Agency. There. And let's go this way with him. He's 55. David St. Jacques, 55, born in Quebec City, Quebec, Canada, on January 6, 1970. He has been in space, the 4th Canadian to do an EVA, and I don't have his total time in space, but he had an Expedition 58 up on the space station. So happy birthday to David, and that reminds me that tomorrow Julie Payette, Canadian astronaut, is going to be out at the Space Center. This is Philip Perrin, born in Morocco, but considers Avon province to be his hometown. And he was a mission specialist on 113, 13 days in space, and he did 3 spacewalks. All right, so he's celebrating his birthday today. And then we've got British astronaut Michael Foale. There was born 1957 in Louth, Lancashire, England. He's an astrophysicist. He's been on both the Mir and the International Space Station as David. That's quite unique. There he is in the MX-13 tank doing training during his shuttle era there. And then we were talking about Guy Gardner. If you've never heard Guy Gardner give his talk, he's 77. He is a teacher, and he approaches his talk out to Kennedy Space Center astronaut encounter as such by yelling out, "Name me an adjective for launching." You know, excited, scared, blah, blah, blah. He gets into that with everybody. He's a Vietnam veteran and a Purdue Boilermaker. And 2 space shuttle missions, STS-27 and 35, in days 13 in space. And he was the 12th president of the Williamson College of the Trades. So We always love Guy out there. He's out there a couple times a year, and that's look at him talking to kids and just enjoying it. There he is out, a formal picture of him. So, happy birthday to you four astronauts born on January 6th. So, well, let's get into a little bit of the program here that I'm going to talk about. Shuttle tiles, not just shuttle tiles. I'm going to talk about all kinds of tiles.
Heatshields.
And Marty's got the question. Give us the question, Marty.
Nick, what percentage of air comprise a space shuttle tile?
All right. Air is part of a space shuttle tile, and the other part of it is
Silicon.
silicon. Right, Marty. So sand and air. So how much air is in a space shuttle tile? We've got one on display here. Next time we do this question, I'll throw a picture of that up there. So we're going to talk about tiles because think about it, folks. What is the most important piece of equipment required for the safe return of astronauts from Earth? It's the heat shield. Of all the things that have to go right, the one that absolutely has to go right is the heat shield. And behind me is the heat shield of one of the SpaceX Crew Dragons. Looks quite like a toasted marshmallow at the top up there. And at the bottom is their heat shield that I'll tell you it's a little bit of a different heat shield. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit, is we're going to put a 411 on heat shields on you here. So let's go to this display that was out at Kennedy Space Center for a couple years, and this is in the Mars exhibit. It's not there anymore. It shows you the Orion Heatshield and then all the other heat shields of spacecraft up against it, okay? So the outer heat shield there would be the Apollo spacecraft. The inner one is Gemini, and the other one is Mercury heat shield in there, all right? So why are we talking about heat shields today? Steve Jokums asks. He knows why. On January 6, 1959, Mercury spacecraft heat shield protection was talked about at a meeting held by NASA to discuss the plans they were going to use. They had two plans, okay? One was beryllium heat sink and ablation. Two plans were considered, a beryllium heat sink, and the other option was ablation, all right? Based on this meeting, a decision was made to modify the spacecraft structure to accommodate interchangeably an ablative heat shield and a beryllium heat sink. And orders were placed for 12 ablative heat shields and 6 beryllium heat sinks, okay? The material chosen for the ablative heat shield was fiberglass bonded with a modified phenolic resin. This material was found to have good structural properties even after being suggested to re-entry heating. All right, so ablative heat shield consists of layers of a plastic resin, an outer surface which is heated to a gas, which carries the heat away by convection. All right. Such heat shields were used on Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo, and are currently used on the Space Dragon, and will be used on Orion. All right. The other side was the beryllium was a thermal soak heat shield using insulating material to absorb and radiate the heat away from the spacecraft. This is the type used on the space shuttle. Nothing flakes off like the ablative heat shield actually loses its surface as part of the heat dispensing process here. And of course, the shuttle consisted of ceramic composite tiles, reinforced carbon-carbon material at the edge wings, and then of course the famous blankets that were replaced a lot of the tiles for the heating. All right, so also of note as we look at the heat shield here of a Mercury spacecraft, all right? Mercury spacecraft there in captivity. You see the heat shield pattern on this, that the ablative part of it flaked away. In fact, John Glenn, the first one to experience this, big time. Said I'm inside a real fireball here, as the plasma being created off of this ablative heat shield enveloped the whole spacecraft in a fiery plasma. Now, something that you might forget about is that this heat shield, once it did its thing, was designed to have a uh, uh, to move. What am I looking for? The word that they use here. It had a bag underneath it. Okay, and that was a concern that when to soften the landing in the ocean. All right, and that they thought that had slipped uh, on John Glenn's mission. To reduce the force of the impact on landing, the heat shield was designed to separate and be held on by a skirt that acted like an airbag. I could do some research on that to see if they kept that up in the later ones. The Mercury had a 6-foot heat shield. Orion capsule's heat shield is 16 feet. All right. So let's look at, in the command module of Apollo was 12 feet, 10 inches. And what's the dimension of the Gemini one? Don't have that right next to me here. One of the things that we have on display that is something that collectors love to have is a heat shield plug. This is a sample of the ablative heat shield, all right, from Gemini 6 and Gemini 7 that flew in space at the same time for one day in that famous rendezvous. Of course, Gemini 7 was launched before Gemini 6. So you see they actually dig in and get a cork, like pulling a cork out or a plug out of cork material, and you see the whole heat shield there and how it's designed the top to burn off on there. And these are displayed in various ways. There's another Mercury heat shield that's on display from some collector. These go for the order of a couple hundred to $300 or $400, depending on the mission and the size of the plug. This is actually how this process is done on every heat shield, as they investigated to see how it performed, and if there was anything inside that they could that needed to have their attention. But once again, these are the scorch marks from reentry, and this pattern of how it was oriented and came into the atmosphere and spent that 3 minutes burning through the atmosphere was something that there's a lot of science behind these scorch marks. The Gemini spacecraft, and here is not just a Gemini, but a special Gemini spacecraft. This is the one out at the Space Force, Gemini II, and there is Bob Crippen standing beside it there. Gemini II was for a while the only spacecraft that was launched twice in space. It made a suborbital flight to test the heat shield. All right, it was launched on a Titan rocket, Titan II rocket, and then this spacecraft again was refurbished into the Gemini B configuration and was subsequently launched on another suborbital flight in a test of the hatch up here of the NASA's MOL manned orbiting laboratory. All right. And so this is the actual heat shield that had been replaced to go up and back. It was the first spacecraft to make more than one space flight, except for the X-15. And I've seen it out there at the Space Force. It's really cool. And by judging that picture of Crip, who's 84 years old, that was probably taken about 30 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. Marty, you got a question on that UCX family microphone?
All right, Dean Babcock is asking, what is the heat shield protection used on the Starship? Is it tiles? Is it tiles like that used on Shuttle?
That is something I don't have anything racked up on, but would love to get to. Is the Starship? He's asking, and it has a different they're based on the shuttle. I do know that in my reading. They are, although the same size, they're not different size all over the shuttle to fit the contour. They seem to be maybe one size fits the palm of the hand and then smaller and so forth. They have a hexagonal pattern. I know that. But definitely they used shuttle technology on this. And knowing Elon Musk, because he doesn't have a government contract bid to stick to, he's probably using the best materials he can as we use the best that we could afford. Go ahead, Marty.
Just looked at Wikipedia and claims that it's composed of thousands of hexagonal ceramic tiles that covered the belly. So,
Yes. Yep. Hexagonal is right.
well, but it's ceramic versus
Okay, ceramic versus sand and silicon. Okay, more of a ceramic tile. That's right. Which ceramic was probably more expensive, or and heavier probably on there. Bill Whiting, great to see you. Can't wait to give you a big old handshake and hug, my friend. I'll probably see you out there seeing Julie Payette, because Bill is also a dual Canadian American citizen. He said he watched today's launch from Port St. John's boat ramp and heard nothing. And I live right near that boat ramp. Wow, that's crazy. The wind was blowing so bad that I can't believe they really launched it here. And how much air is in those shuttle tiles? Dave Stangy's going with 90%. Gary Gerald says 94. And Doug Forrest says, hello, everybody. Hello, Doug. Hope it's warm for you there in hopefully sunny Southern California there. So,
where's Steve Holcomb?
Yeah, I talked to Steve Jokums on the phone because I was worried about him. And he's been busy with some family things, but he's just fine. He had a family event to go to at the end of the week, but thought he'd be on here today. But Steve, you'll catch it on replay there. Just to let you know, we love our regulars on here, and we've all become family. So if you don't show up for a few days, we're gonna want to wonder why. All right, where's my? I hit the wrong button. Wait, there's my live chat. Okay, good. All right, let's talk some more Heat Shield 411 stuff here. Who recognizes this heat shield? That is a command module of the Apollo era. Boy, and these don't weather very well after 50 years. Marty, have you noticed that? Mm-hmm. And they really get some degrading in the atmosphere here. And that one, I'm sure, looks a lot different than when it was re-entered the Earth. I don't know which one that is. I can't even get a hint at what it is. That might be one at the Smithsonian under repair. I do love Apollo 16 at the U.S. Rocket Center in Huntsville, and you see a lot of gouges in it and missing on there. So the heat shield of the command module. Oh, here we are. The display is on the Explorer Space Explorers Wanted area, the Visitors Complex. But where? This was built by Lockheed Martin with support from Textron. So this is 12 feet, and by comparison, Orion's heat shield is 16 feet. An ablative heat shield, but a little bit more souped up because it was to withstand temperatures up from a 30,000 mile re-entry, not a 17,000 mile re-entry of the orbital Mercury, Gemini, and going on there. There I am a few years ago, and many of you have seen that same scene as the Apollo 13 heat shield. That I think is so iconic how they display it at the Cosmosphere in Hutchinson, Kansas. And they have a lot of cool lighting on it. And, there was a lot of concern, about the heat shield being frozen and just all kinds of stuff on the Apollo 13 rescue mission there. So that's another view of the Apollo era one. There's the Apollo 13 heat shield plug that was taken out. Once again, they're in a nice case. The top part that was exposed, like in this picture, to being burned. And they take some of these plugs out. I think that might be where those black things around the edge are, so they don't. So when you get the chance to buy one, there's not many of them out there. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, Dean Babcock is asking, is the tour of the Pad 5 and museum still offered by the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Center?
What do you think?
I think
That's the Alan Shepard
yeah,
pad.
I think there's special tours you have to sign up for.
Yeah, special
Yeah.
tours. It's an extra ticket
Yeah, it
if
doesn't
it's
come
still
with the,
available. Marty, you have a pass out there. I've been talking to some people here on the coast that since the tragedy of the terrorist attack at New Orleans last week, there's been some security upgrades here at this government installation here. In other words, you can't. I heard someone said you can't take a ride along with you. Uh, you're going to try to get tickets to see the new Glen, but you can't take the ride along people with you.
right, I can take ride-alongs in Kennedy Space Center. It's
Okay.
called a window. It's something new. It's called a window pass.
Okay.
And but I can't get out to with spectators. I can't get out to the Space Force side.
All right.
Cannot.
Yeah, there's a little security lockdown going around our country right now, folks. And when you're close to a government installation like we are, you hear the rumors about it. So, and it's all about the, keeping our country safe. So we go along with all that. So there's a plug there. Not sure what that would cost, but that's a nice looking one there. And then here we have the toasted marshmallow of the SpaceX. They install thermal protection tiles on the composite structure to protect the spacecraft from the searing heat. They go through a rigorous testing of everything. And SpaceX shields, Starship heat shields are thinner than Space Shuttle orbital tiles for two reasons. They're made of a dense, tough ceramic. Tufroc is a name I came up with. TUFROC is a material in ceramics. Whereas the orbital tiles are fiber, foam, aerogel core that was very insulating but rather fragile and prone to absorbing moisture. Okay, is what they have on there. Prone to absorbing moisture, the shuttle tiles were. So here is the Orion Heatshield under production. And I was reading a story about an hour before the show started that said that the Orion Heatshield had undergone 1,000 tests and was ready for its ultimate test, the November launch in 2022. All right. That after 1,000 tests on this, it came back that they had problems with the heat shield. The problems that they're talking about are it did not dissipate the heat away like it was supposed to. It would not have injured anyone inside. They don't think by their sensors and so forth on that Artemis 1 test that the heat shield was got hot inside the cabin. But they had the Ares X1 test with an Orion spacecraft and the same type of heat shield that was taken out to about 30,000 miles and then brought in on a fast re-entry. And they didn't talk about that heat shield having problems. But that is something that's holding up and delayed the Artemis II launch, is issues with the heat shield shown here. There it is again. Oh, no, this is the Starliner. Okay. And why do I know immediately that's the Starliner? What gives it away are those red bags, Marty. Those are the air bags that to inflate when the aeroshell of the heat shield drops off and it lands in the desert on a cushion of air. And of course, we know that did work on Starliner, the orbital test that had the thruster issues and would have made it and brought Butch and Sonny back safely, but we couldn't take that risk. The two astronauts that are left up on the space station till the end of March now. But there's the Starliner heat shield on there. So, and last but not least, talk about the Dream Chaser, the mini shuttle that Sierra Corp is wanting to put into the queue to take cargo up to the space station. The Dream Chaser thermal protection tiles uh, cover nearly the entire spacecraft to protect it from the heat of the sun as well as the plasma reentry. Uh, and they can withstand 3,000 degrees is the level there that they're looking at. 2,000 tiles on a Dream Chaser compared to over 24,000 tiles used on a space shuttle. Of course, the Dream Chaser is about 1/4 the size of the shuttle there. So, answer to Marty's question. Take it away, Marty.
Okay, what percentage of air comprised the space shuttle tile? And the winner goes to Gary Jarrell today.
All right.
94% air.
All right, Gary. Good for you, buddy. 94%? What you're saying?
94.
Is there? Wow, that's amazing. They're super light. We've got one on display here that you can hold in your hands. So, um, yes, we're talking Matt Pike. Thank you for joining. I'm looking at your comment here, and he's kind of saying if we just kept the space shuttle going, the shuttle could have used and tested new tech while we're now into the 13th, 14th year of this Orion spacecraft putting any human beings in it. So thank you for Matt Pike for watching there. Glad that you're on our stream today, and you can always watch our program and the over 800 episodes that are on Stay Curious that are on YouTube. Yeah, Marty.
I missed Matt's question. I didn't ask it. But I'm not sure if it's, well, he's asking how much delay could have been avoided if NASA had just kept the shuttle program.
Yeah.
So that's probably more a rhetorical question.
Right. Yeah. Well, there'd been no delay because they would have kept going on instead of ending it in 2011. But yeah, we had that gap. It was horrible, depending on the Soyuz spacecraft to take us up to the space station that our shuttle built. Yeah, it does not make. It's not logical. If I was a Vulcan, I would say, right? It's just not logical. But so many things aren't logical that are tied to our government and our election system, where every 4 years we replace our leader, which is a good thing. But they all want to wipe the slate clean of domestic projects, space projects, international projects. This is why China's going to the moon by 2030 for sure, because they don't. They have the money is already allocated, and no government political party can take it away from them in there. So it gets complicated. And we're going to tackle some of this Artemis stuff going on as we see the Trump administration when they get into the White House. It's still conjecture. Or is there going to be Artemis with Trump or not? The Trump administration in the 5 years ago actually proposed the program that we're carrying out now. So hope you've all enjoyed that little bit of heat shields there. Sorry to be a little discursive on a Monday, but I got a lot going on, so I thought it'd be fun just to give you a quick little mini tour of our American Space Museum there. Marty, go ahead with the question.
Dean Babcock, do you know what the Soyuz heat shield was made of?
No, I don't. I don't. Marty's going to kind of research that for us there probably. But could have added that. I know, I'm pretty sure it's ablative, and I'm pretty sure it's as crude as it was 40 years ago probably, because the Russian philosophy is if it's not broke, don't fix it. And that's why their spaceship, Soyuz, launched 40 some years ago, is basically the same with the usual generational upgrades of computers and solar panel energy and efficient navigation. So go ahead, Marty.
That's a fairly long text. The solar spacecraft heat shield is made of several materials, including silica foam, a blader, titanium alloy, and it just has a lot of verbiage about them.
But it's an ablative system,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it peels off there. So, and their Soyuz are not reusable. They're one and done on that. So they can put all that in there. Well, Marty, help me out maybe here with your pointer here as we're going out on another wonderful day of Stay Curious here at the museum. Above my head here is a spacesuit built by Gary Harris, the 9th spacesuit that Gary built. It has on its back a tortoise type of shell opening, a clamshell opening, if you will, like the Orlan suit of the Russians, where you would jump into that instead of a upper and lower torso like the Americans have on there. This is a spacesuit that could be used in space, Gary said. On a spacewalk, all spacewalks look like this underneath the suit. They actually put on another layer to protect from radiation, micrometeorites, and the heat of the sun. One unusual thing up here on the top in the bubble helmet is it has a built-in microphone and headset earphones, okay? So you don't have to wear the Snoopy cap that some astronauts find itchy and on there. On the back, Marty, is Bob Smeet. Point out Bob Smeet. That is Bob Crippen's Skylab Medical Experiment Altitude Tests, Smeet, that he wore during his 56 days with Thornton and Bobco to test out the environment of the Skylab. And so that's the real deal. That's a real launch control panel from the Apollo days in a chair. And that is a tire that was not used because it's not scuffed up, but it's a rejected shuttle tire. And then Marty on top of there.
The main landing gear tire.
A shuttle tire, what did I say?
Yeah, it's the main landing gear.
Yes, main landing
just
gear
for
tire.
clarification.
Yep, thank you. Yes, it's just the main landing gear. Across from it, we have the nose gear. And if you go up on the top, that's the model that I showed at the beginning of the show there with Norm Thagard's lounge chair that he came back to Earth there on top of in our shuttle gallery. A close-up of some of the controls in our in our Cape Canaveral gallery. It's so cool to see these are opening up the valves at the top there. All of these you can open, and a lot of the switches and stuff there are active, and truly a one-of-a-kind room there, our Cape Canaveral gallery. The button that launched John Glenn. All right, I don't have the one between that. Okay. The button that launched John Glenn. Yes, Tom O'Malley, a famous test conductor in the Mercury and Gemini and Apollo era. Tom O'Malley pushed this button to activate the rocket, Atlas rocket, Atlas II rocket actually, that sent John Glenn into orbit. And I've heard many stories about this button being in the console. And I know Lee Solid, who passed away, rocket dying genius, he said he went there to get that button, and someone had already got it, and it was put on a fancy plaque type of thing here. So, ha, we're the only ones that have that. And in our women's gallery, there is Sally Ride's handprints, well worn in front of you there, very small hands, and on the wall. And the next one down is Eileen Collins, who's going to be a main speaker at Shuttle Fest in April, and then Kathy Sullivan on the other end there. And all 80 women who've orbited the Earth are on the walls there in our women's gallery there. Soon to be renamed the Karen Conklin Gallery after our beloved late leader. And there's the shuttle area there. And what I love telling guests, Marty, is that this model by the Nixon administration in 1970 to show politicians, contractors, general public what they were talking about. Because the RSS, remote service structure, right, Marty?
Yeah.
Is the acronym. That's the gray area that moves on wheels to cover up the shuttle, and that's where the payload is hoisted up to that area and then it closes over the payload bay doors on there. So also very rare and loaned to us by Mike Leinbach, who launched the last 37 shuttles, are those uh, hatch covers on the wall, Atlantis, Endeavor, and Discovery, that were on the actual hatch cover in the White Room, and then they were signed by the crew and the closeout crew. So that's one of a kind. No one has those. No one ever will have those. Go ahead, Marty.
This is my question, Mark. I was under the impression that was built in the late 1970s, the Nixon administration. If that is true,
Early. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
if that is true, why is the tank orange instead of white? I think I stumped you.
That's a good one. That's a good one. We go by the provenance of what we've been told. It could have been swapped out for a white one later on, but that's a good one because most of the early concepts they have the white tank, and STS 1 and 2 had a white tank, and then to save what 600 pounds, you say, Marty,
Yeah.
of paint, they didn't paint it. And then they started making it lighter and lighter. So I'll look into that. I'll say something to Nick about that, our collections guy. Good point there. However, it is quite unique, and actually we don't have enough room in our ceiling. The lightning tower on the left there is laying beside it there. We don't have room to, the ceiling's in the way, and we're looking at maybe moving that part of the ceiling in some way to do that. And you got these big pictures that show one of the four segments of the solid rocket boosters that each weigh 20 tons. So you got 80 tons of solid rocket boosters on the side. That's 160 tons times two is 320 tons. The 200-ton orbiter then is not going to pull that thing over. Go ahead, Marty.
I must have misunderstood what you were talking about as far as the RSS, and Gary Jarrell's pointing it out. It's the rotating service structure.
Rotating service
Yeah, I think
structure.
you said, what'd you say?
What did I say?
You must have said
Remote service
remote, yeah.
structure. Yeah, rotating service structure. There you go, Gary. Keep me straight there, buddy. Love it. All right, but this is really a great area here. There's always more than meets the eye. That's a net from the safety net down at the bottom. You got a piece of a crawler, 1/4 of a crawler there. You see the yellow crawler tiles on the table there. That's a representation of the crawler. Actual on the far left there, that gray is the hand controller, forward and backwards there above the SRB with the skirt there and the engine. That is actually the controls that Buchanan, I think, was the gentleman's name who donated that to us. And Marty's going to show it to you right there. Yep. There's the black handle that he pulled forward and back. It only went forward and reverse. They never turned it around. There was a cab on each end of it in there. So it's part of our shuttle gallery there. And let's see here, a couple more pictures to show you on our mini tour here. This is in our workers gallery, showing you 3 mannequins. The one on the right is the workers in their bunny suits. The blue material has a metal piece of thread going through it, like it's like a checkerboard all through the whole thing. That's to eliminate static electricity. Marty's very familiar with the other on the wall there. That's a SCAPE suit. And you're going to tell me what SCAPE acronym is, Marty, right?
I knew you were going to ask me that. No. I forget.
SCAPE. Well, when would you wear that, Marty?
At hazardous operations, primarily during fueling operations.
Mostly with the hypergolics.
Yes. Yeah.
Your tetrahydrazine and your other mixer there with that. And then you've got a fireman's suit there. Fireman, very important at the Space Center. We've had that Lee Sterrick is the gentleman that involved this museum many years, and that's many of his items in that rescue team stuff in there. So that's a really cool room. Go ahead, and we need an extra boot for that escape suit there.
Okay, I'm going back one slide, and Dean Babcock is. I have a hard time saying your name, Dean. I'm sorry. Babcock, is that a hold down bolt on the desk to the right? And yes.
Great eye, it is right there. That is a hold down bolt, scorched on the end. All right, there's 4 of them around the skirts, and that is the cap on top of the hold down bolt that the franginal nut lays on top of that cap, and that part goes through the dome on the left. Good eye, my friend. Good eye. Yeah, and that's the Endeavor the Endeavor schooner ship up on the top up there. Whenever, yeah, that is the hold down bolt. And I'll make a close up of some of this stuff as we go down the line, as I can see y'all are enjoying this little tour of our museum there. Workers gallery there. I always point out the poster on the wall has a bullseye on Merritt Island, and this is an anti-terrorism poster there. I'll show that up close one day.
Mark, let's go back one slide again.
Uh-huh.
And you may want to explain about the Endeavor's sailing ship. Why is the ship there?
The shuttles were named after pioneering scientific ships of mostly of England. Okay, Atlantis was a Captain Cook, I believe, ship. Discovery. Woods Hole is another institution that had several of these named after that. I'm speaking off the top of my head on a brain-filled Monday here, Marty. So, but yeah, that was the idea of showing that schooner ship, is that these are legacy-named spacecraft after pioneering scientific discovering ships of the sea on there. So that'd be a good show just to do that one day, Marty. Yeah.
And Jesse's on the line.
Oh.
But Jesse's watching.
Oh, hi, Jesse. My daughter Jessica's on the line there with McKinley and Macy. She's getting ready to go to Memphis for a big trip there. Her husband's competing in a bluegrass, not bluegrass, a blues competition in Memphis. So good luck with that. Oh, there's Jesse there, getting ready to go. And she's reminding you all, make sure you subscribe, like, share, and tell everybody about what we do here on YouTube every day, Monday through Friday. And then we always have a lot of guests. All right, 1 or 2 more images. This is in this gallery here, on this case right there, that black box right there, is indeed a black box out of a space shuttle. This was space flown. You see the plug-ins to it. We do know that this was either used to record communications of astronauts with the ground or another avionics thing. I think the card it has on there. We can't pin down which one of the 2 things it did, but the shuttle had several of these black boxes on them. And this is what it looked like. An airline black box is orange. But this was, so it can be found easily. Don't know why these aren't that, but this was a data hard drive for information of a shuttle on there, and it was bequeathed to us, and we're glad to have it. And finally, here, our shuttle consoles. One of the coolest things we have here is our shuttle consoles that fueled the shuttle. C11 is what we think these came from in the scheme of layout by numbers and letters in the Launch Control Center. And this actually is operating our little 10-minute program of STS-133, Discovery's final flight in 2010. And right above me here, that is where I'm speaking to you from. I'm actually in front of this this legacy Hubble telescope 30th anniversary poster called the Cosmic Reef. All right, and that was our Hubble gallery in there. And that's where we're talking to. I'm sitting right there, folks, and many of you been here know what that looks like there. So wonderful. Thank you all for watching today, okay? We thank GoHistoryTravel.org for their financial support of the museum, like so many of you have been doing lately. And go out and get your little moonshine, as the moon is first quarter phase. To the far right of it is a bright star. That's the planet Saturn. And you can't miss Venus, so brilliant in the western sky. And then you look over in the eastern sky, and that bright star is Jupiter. And about an hour after you see Jupiter in the same place, the sky is going to be Mars. So get out and get you a little moonshine and some starlight. It'll make you feel better if you do. Marty, anything to button up over there today?
No, we're all buttoned up.
Well, thank you, sir, for an outstanding job. Marty is a volunteer, a faithful volunteer, like so many here at the American Space Museum. We're a small staff with in need of a lot of volunteers, like all nonprofits everywhere. So if you're in the area and want to help us out, 4 hours a month would be great. We'll find a slot for you here. But why don't you find 1 hour a day to find time to relax and listen to some space news and some interviews with who we call national treasures, American space workers. We're efforting to do that for you every day here on Stay Curious. So until tomorrow, I'm Mark Marquette saying thank you for watching, and I can't wait to see you in the museum to bridge the space between us.